From boy to toy, here's your look at the new Playmates toys. This is the Power Players Axel. Game on. With a crash of Minergy-fueled power bands, 9-year-old Axel transforms into a 6-inch tall super-suited action figure and joins the Power Players, a living toy team battling to save the world from Madcap and his mini minions. The first thing we're going to do is figure out how tall Axel stands. I'd also like to send out a big thank you to the folks over at Playmates Toys who made these reviews possible. We're going to be having a look at the entire lineup of the new Power Players. According to my trusty tape measure, you're looking at the figure of Axel standing 5.5 inches in height. Not bad at all. And in centimeters, that works out to be 14 centimeters exactly. The figure gets some accessories, some translucent accessories, as you can see, or somewhat see, me passing my hand right behind it. No, that's not magic. That's the clear, somewhat clear, green plastic that they've used for a shield. The shield has one connector point on the back. And one thing that I really like is that it can be housed on either one of his arms. It's not dictated specifically, like for example, it has to be on this arm. You could actually put it on either one of the arms. So if you want to decide to have his other accessory in his other hand, you can more than happy be able to pull that off. We're just going to go ahead and fit that into his hand. It's a bit on the tight side, but as you can see, Axel holds his shield on the side of his forearm. That then frees up the other hand, on the other hand, to of course hold his sword. The sword is done in the same glowing green plastic, as you can see right there. You don't get many translucent weapons nowadays. It seems like it's a bit of a dying art. You can go ahead and then fit that into Axel's hands just like that, and he's all poised and ready to go. Pretty cool, the fact that he does come included with the accessories and a nice complementary color, because it does look like these energy constructed shield and of course sword, as opposed to something he's physically just picked up. We're going to go ahead and take these out of his hands, and we're just going to go put those to the side just for the time being, and we'll have a look at Axel. Now, Axel, of course, is a transformed power player, so of course prior to that, I'm sure his days weren't as exciting as they were once he became a power player. He is all decked and dressed up in red, yellow, and blue, sort of as plates, like little armor pieces that go over top of his black bodysuit. He's a very posable looking figure, which we certainly will get to in a second, but we'll quickly first have a look at his face. I will date myself by saying this. He kind of reminds me of Exo Man of War from the old, I think it was Valiant comics back in the days. I get very much that helmet. He also kind of looks a little bit like Iron Man in his design. I kind of like the idea of these new power players in the sense that they're living, breathing toys. It reminds me of like the old Small Soldiers. Remember the Small Soldiers movie? That was a fantastic movie. But I get very much that same sort of feeling when I'm looking at these pieces right here. As I said, he's very posable, but we'll quickly first look at his face. As you can see, he's wearing this larger headpiece helmet, which is a continuation of that same red and yellow that makes its way down here. Now, you also have his little logo featured down in the middle section right here, which seems to be a continued logo of the Power Players when we have a look at the other figures. Some shoulder pads featured on the top, which are actually molded in place. I thought they would have actually been pegged in place where you could actually move them, but it doesn't seem to limit any bit of its posability. You can still move his arms out quite freely, and there's no real issues that way with moving his arms out. Now, these are sort of like the old vintage Ninja Turtles, and I guess still sort of the way the Ninja Turtles are working nowadays, where if you have these hinge joints, they allows the legs to move forward and back. But if you want to move them this way, I know we're sort of already talking about articulation, you have to rotate them this way to hinge them out, if that makes any sense. He's a good sized figure, which also supports some rather large peg holes on the undersides of his feet. The figures themselves don't come with display stands, so I'm curious as to why specifically they chose these sizes of stands. I thought at one point you could actually take his shield and he sort of could ride it, but the peg holes are very unique to one another, and it makes me think that they're intended for something much bigger, much grander. For the figure's articulation, though, we can go through that right now. His head rotates all the way around. Thank goodness these figures are superposable, so kids are going to love to pick up and play with these. The ball joint, like I said, will allow the head to move up and down. You can rock it back and forth. As for the arms, I know we've already sort of touched base on that, but the arms go a full 90-degree angle. I like that. And you can move the arms all the way around. While he doesn't have a swivel in his bicep, he can most definitely swivel the arm all the way around. And he can also bend the arm back and forth. He does also have hand articulation, which is actually a nice treat. I would have thought they could have just really given him arm articulation, but they actually gave him hand articulation also as well. Nothing in the waist. That's the one thing of limitation when it comes to the articulation on this particular figure. But as we've already discussed, his legs quite freely move back and forth. But when you, again, want to rotate the leg this way, you want to bring the leg this way. See how the hinge has to be facing that way to allow the leg to go? Yeah, that makes sense. He does also have a bend at the knee, and you can also rotate the lower foot or the lower boot section of his armor, and you can also rotate his feet independently as well. So really, Playmates have put a lot of articulation in little tiny Axel. I wanted to start the review, obviously, with him, but rest assured we're going to be having a look at the rest of the Power Players, a fun new lineup from the folks over at Playmates Toys. We're going to go ahead and get his sword going one last time, fit that into his hand, and we'll go ahead and put his shield also into his other hand. There we go. This line, I'm wondering if they're actually going to get themselves vehicles. I don't know too much about the property so far, other than the fact that the toys look pretty cool. And Axel here in all his bright blue, yellow, and red colors looks like a neat looking figure, which is also superposable as well. In final looks, we're having a look at the back of the packaging for the new Power Players figures. This serves as two reasonings. One, so you can see the full cast of characters that are going to be making up the Power Players, but also so that you can see the little Axel cutaway card. Yes, you can actually cut this out and save it for yourself, sort of in the same way as the old vintage G.I. Joes. And I'm all about being able to cut out read-ups. I'm hoping they're all going to be of the same size so that they're easy to put together and you can keep them in a little storage container, which is usually what I did with my old vintage G.I. Joes. And as you can see, each one of the characters are very much unique to one another. They all sort of represent different aspects of the action figure realms. Some warriors, some lucha wrestlers, and even a couple of mutants in there as well. It's a really neat lineup of characters from the folks over at Playmates Toys. If you guys are interested in checking out some more from the folks over at Playmates Toys, or if you want to check out more from Power Players, I can put the link down below and you can check out some of the social media coverage going on for this new lineup of action figures called the Power Players. Again, a big thank you to the folks over at Playmates Toys for making this review possible and sending these my way. As I said, we're going to be having a look at the rest of the lineup of Power Players coming up in the next couple of reviews. So keep your peepers peeled for that. Make sure as well you hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure as well you hit that bell notification and stay tuned because as I said, we're going to have a look at a whole bunch of Power Player reviews in the upcoming videos. As always, thanks for watching and I'll see you guys next time.